Sometimes a story is just a story, but more often than not, they are a lesson cloaked in entertainment. The stories I share here are definitely the latter. Some are fact, some are fiction, all are beneficial. Hello, my name is Earl Breon, and you are listening to the Leadership Chronicles. Today's story is titled Omission Tradition. You may have heard this story before. It's been told a lot by a lot of different speakers and has many different variations. But the point is always the same, and we'll talk about that afterwards. So here it goes. A young couple has been dating for several months. They feel it's the right time to elevate their relationship, so she invites him to her parents' house for Thanksgiving dinner. He agrees as long as they do Christmas at his folks' house. Done. They would each meet with each other's parents over the holidays. Thanksgiving arrives and they show up at her parents' house. He brings a nice bottle of wine in order to make a good impression with the family. And being the thoughtful, forward-thinking young man that he is, he offers to help the ladies in the kitchen, but they shut him down and usher him out to watch football with the guys. He knew this meant that they wanted girl talk time, and it was likely going to be about him. Anyway, a couple hours later, dinner is served. He walks into the dining room and sees a beautiful spread. There is a large turkey with all the fixings. Yes, folks, I'm from Tennessee. And wonderful harvest-themed decorations all around. But something seems off and he can't quite figure it out. They sit down in their carefully thought out assigned seats and Dad begins to say grace. After he finishes, he assumes his position over the turkey to begin carving. And then it hits the young man. The turkey doesn't have any legs. Who cuts the legs off the turkey? I mean, that's one of the best parts of the bird. Throughout the meal, he's distracted by this oddity. The bird itself, phenomenal. What would those legs have tasted like? The world will never know. After the meal, complete with a little awkward conversation to get to know why this guy thinks he's right for their daughter, it's cleanup time. Again, he offers to help the ladies in the kitchen, but they refuse. He spends the rest of the evening making small talk and working to impress the father. When they leave to head back home, she asks him how he enjoyed the dinner. He said, "Loved it. It was almost perfect." Almost? Yeah, the turkey had no legs. I love a turkey leg. Oh, that's just how Mom cooks it. But I'm glad you said something because, well, if I was ever to cook a turkey for us, that's how I'd do it. But why? Is there something wrong with the turkey leg that I don't know about? You know what? I'm not sure. That's just how it's always been done. Now I'm curious. So she pulls out her phone and calls her mom. Hey, Mom. Yeah, we're almost home. Say, I have a question. Why do we always cut the legs off the turkey? Oh, because that's the way Grandma always did it. Well, do you know why she did it? Yes, please ask her. Thanks, Mom. Tell Dad we had a great time and I'll talk to you tomorrow. Love you. So the next day comes around and Mom calls. So I asked my mom why she cut the legs off the turkey and she had no answer. It was the way my grandma, your great-grandmother, always did it. So she called her up to find out. And you won't believe the answer. This whole thing started because when your great-grandma was a young wife fixing Thanksgiving dinner, the only pan they had was too small to fit the legs. They didn't have money for a new pan, so they just made do and cut the legs off and fed them to the dogs. They were poor for so long that it just became the normal tradition. She chuckled and said, so for 80 plus years, we've been throwing away perfectly good turkey legs because of a pan that was too small back in the 1930s? That's hilarious. Next year, I vote we go completely wild and leave them on and just see what happens. Now, as I mentioned, there are some variations. Sometimes it's a Christmas ham with the shank removed, or sometimes it's just a normal evening dinner with a roasted chicken that had its legs removed. But the premise is always the same. It was a tradition that started due to unfortunate yet temporary circumstances decades ago that are still impacting the modern era. And that's the leadership lesson of this story. How many policies, procedures, or processes exist just because they've always existed? How many opportunities have you and your organization missed out on because of these? How many times have you attempted change and modernization only to be met with the tradition argument? Now, don't get me wrong. There's immense value in tradition, but that tradition needs to be rooted in beliefs and values. It has to mean something other than it was created by limited situational circumstances. Traditions that are rooted in beliefs and values should be adhered to, modernized if possible, but adhered to. They are what made your organization successful. They are what made you successful. Straying from these traditions can be disastrous. However, the ones that are explained away just because need to go. They, more likely than not, are doing more harm than good. Just ask all those perfectly fine discarded turkey legs. Now for some growth questions. Can you identify your personal traditions? And can you identify where they began and why you hold them so dear? How about traditions for your organization? Are there any traditions that you're holding on to, maybe your team or your organization, that are rooted just because and holding you back? If so, how will you fix or get rid of those? What is the most absurd just because tradition you have ever witnessed? Well, there it is, folks, the story of the Omission Tradition and how it relates to you and your organization and can help you become more successful in your leadership endeavors. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Leadership Chronicles. To continue the discussion, find me on Twitter at Earl_Breon, Facebook at facebook.com/laymanleadership, all one word, or email me at podcast@earlbreon.com.